Hey everyone, I'm your host, Jay Riccabona, back with another episode of the Jay Riccabona Experience. My guest for today is Kat Ravichandran. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, I'm, as Jay said, Kat Ravichandran, and I'm so excited to be here.
All right, great. Can you do a quick introduction? Can you do a quick introduction for us?
Hi, this is Kat Ravichandran coming to you live from the Jay Riccabona Experience studio.
Perfect. I needed to take two. I didn't take one. Okay, so what kinds of things have you been doing at Albemarle?
Studying, learning, growing my mind. No, I'm the president of the Students Working Against Hunger nonprofit at Albemarle High School.
Great. So how long have you been working with that?
That started sophomore year. We had a guest speaker come in to my orchestra class, and they told us that almost 1 in 5 people in the Albemarle, Charlottesville area struggle with hunger. And I think it never really occurred to me just how prevalent the issue was in our area. And I think anybody who hears that number would want to help.
Right.
And Albemarle is great because it has so many clubs, but obviously you can't have a club for everything. And so there wasn't anything specifically addressing hunger, and so I figured, why not start it?
I like that initiative. I feel like we kind of think of stuff like homelessness, like food insecurity, and we like to think of it as happening away from us, and it kind of we want that feeling of, oh, we're separated from it, we don't have to think about it. But good for you for understanding that it is here, it is near, and it should be dealt with. So what kinds of things have you been doing as part of SWAHg?
So SWAHg started out sophomore year, and we right in sophomore year was 2020, and that was right when the pandemic hit. And so I think the first thing we did was take a tour of Loaves and Fishes, and then the pandemic hit, and we were all forced to go virtual.
Yeah.
And this is obviously bad for many reasons. Obviously, the pandemic was not a good thing necessarily, but I will say it exacerbated needs in a really big way in Charlottesville, and thus it provided us many opportunities to help. And so the first thing that we wanted to do was some drives, but food drives and lots of these kinds of drives are very common and very lots of people can do them. And what we wanted to do is something that other clubs might not have the capacity to do. And so I began reaching out to Loaves and Fishes, the Haven Housing and Homeless Shelter on the downtown mall, and similar organizations. And I was basically we want to do a drive, but we only want to do it for stuff that you guys actually need and might not be addressed. So for the Haven, we started by doing hygiene packs, which had conditioner and shampoo and toothpaste and toothbrush, things that they need but might not normally be donated.
Right.
Or with Loaves and Fishes, what they don't usually get is pet food but obviously people have pets and that also costs money to buy them food. So stuff like that. But it's gradually grown, especially as we've come back to school. And I would say really our biggest thing, the thing I'm really excited about is the WISH program, which stands for the Wasted Food is Safe for the Hungry, or WISH program. So restaurants like Panera Bread, Lotus Bagels, which we all love, they produce fresh food daily. But that unfortunately means that every night they have to throw out all this excess food. And so what we try to do is pick up that excess food and bring it to organizations that can use it, small pantries that specifically serve these neighborhoods that are low income or need food, like Hungry Hearts No More. And so, because I think high school kids, an issue is that we don't have the money to buy these stuff, but one thing we love is driving, and that's something that we have time, and we can do that and we have the capacity to send a volunteer many times a week. So yeah.
Especially that WISH thing, I really like the sound of that. I kind of have a passing knowledge of just the immense amount of food waste, and especially there's legal issues around food waste. A lot of companies, big chains, will specifically lock their dumpsters, burn or otherwise dispose of their waste, specifically to prevent homeless people from getting to it. So the fact that you're kind of handling that and kind of integrating that into what you do, I find I really like the sound of that. So
I think that it's crazy how many people are hungry considering how much excess food we have.
Right.
There's I can't remember exactly, but not only is it bad because we have food for people who are hungry, but it's also incredibly bad for the environment.
Right.
If food waste was a country, I want to say it's 4th in total pollution created or something, which is just a wild statistic, and how much, so it's really just bad for the environment, and it could solve a problem. And so I think we have an issue with our networking and our distribution, that we aren't able to provide it. And so if we see spots where we as high schoolers can interject into the system and try to help, I think it's important.
Yeah, like that as like logistics and distribution, what you're talking about, and like the very tail end of that, like the waste. You're right that we do have like a big gaping hole there, and like there is like a huge need for like waste management in like efficient and environmentally friendly ways. So yeah, like really good for you guys for like seeing that need and feeling it. So you talked about like you had the capacity to do this kind of thing. So what's like, would you say that SWAHg has like high membership, like high engagement with like your body of like workers? Would you say that?
Yeah, I would say, and I think it's difficult, especially as, you know, lots of kids have lots of extracurriculars.
Right.
And so what's important, I found, is that making sure that they have ways to engage even if they can't come to the meetings. And Wish is literally, it's great because it's like, like one night a week you can go out and you can go pick up the food and bring it. And we actually work to expand to other high schools. So like the person leading our program is actually from Monticello.
Right.
And so by doing that, you have not only have more students, but you have kids who are closer to certain restaurants, closer to certain pantries. And there's something to be said about finding ways to keep people engaged regardless of how much time they can commit. Because most people can give one evening a month. And like, I think by May this month, we'll have saved over 15,000 pounds of food through the Wish program.
We love the sound of that. So you said someone from Monticello is project lead of Wish?
Yeah. So
that means that SWAHg isn't like Albemarle High School thing, like it's gone beyond, right?
Yeah, it started at Albemarle High School again, but when the pandemic began, we were trying to see how can we optimize this pandemic, what can we take, as you said, as an advantage. And one of the things is that we were meeting virtually on Fridays. And what others, and like, if it's not in one location, if it's virtual, then anybody can do it from any school. And also Western and Monticello also had Fridays off. And CHS, I believe, also had they worked out as well for them. I don't know exactly their schedule, but I know they could also make these Friday meetings. And so all of a sudden we went from maybe 20 kids at Albemarle to both junior lower classes and other schools to I think now we have 75 members. And while not every member's at every, Albemarle Tuesday morning meeting, they're doing Wish or they're helping with the drive or they're doing something.
That's really impressive that I really kind of feeling that, not just seeing the problem that you have and not only fixing the problem, but also using that solution to kind of push your project beyond the normal bounds. I can't really name any clubs that started at Albemarle that kind of grew beyond that. So do you see it growing even farther? Do you want SWAHg to go even beyond the Albemarle County school system?
I mean, in an ideal world, yes, but obviously I'm leaving this year. Yeah. And so what's really important to me is making sure that we have a sustainable way to solve this problem and to sustainably help the community.
Yeah.
Drives and stuff are incredibly important, but we have things that are Band-Aids that need to be provided, and then we need to actually solve what's causing the symptoms. We need to solve the disease. And it's hard for high school students to do that, but maybe we can provide a permanent Band-Aid. Do you know what I mean? Well, those who have a greater capacity can actually start working on the disease. And there's things that affect both. So the Wish, if we can keep that sustainable and keep that going, I would be incredibly happy because every year we're saving 5,000, 7,000 pounds.
Right.
That's what, and as long as we can keep kids doing that, that would be a dream. Obviously in the long run, we want to do it everywhere and make sure that no restaurant is saving food, but we have to be realistic of what we can do. But also these sort of longer term projects, something that we were working on, again, during the pandemic, if I could just start a new story, if that's cool, but Loaves and Fishes, the bus stop to get to Loaves and Fishes is almost a mile away.
Right.
Which is bad both because it's do you know where hydraulic is? It's on the edge of, so basically those who need this food are having to walk across this busy road, go down the big hill, get their groceries, and then lug all of these groceries back up the hill back there, which is bad. First off, it's just heavy, and nobody wants to lug all those groceries. Second off, I think it's 25% of their clients either have a kid which means that they're gonna have to like take this kid with them when they go get the food, or they have some sort of disability, which is prevalent among those who are, because veterans often struggle with low income situation. So now they're having to walk this thing with a disability. It's just like we have to find a better solution.
Right.
And so we spent quite a while trying to get the bus stop moved, and we spoke with Charlottesville Area Transportation, we spoke with all these different organizations, but amending the bus route was going to cost almost $1 million, or over $1 million, which was not ideal, and not something that we as high schoolers could possibly raise. But what we worked with the jaunt shuttle service is now that there's a regular jaunt shuttle service that is taking clients free to the pantry and then taking them home, which is important not only because now clients can get right there, but also it's so much easier to put all your groceries in a shuttle service than, in a bus.
Right. So you kind of like started to branch out and like talk to like government like agencies, like established organizations. Do you see like SWAHg doing more of that in the future, like more ingraining itself with like government, like public servants and like entrenched like activist organizations?
Yeah, I would love that. I think, because again, going back to this like band, like I think it's important that there are people behind providing the Band-Aids, but in an ideal situation, we can start looking at ways we can, permanently make these differences. That would just, and I think there's lots of ways that we can increase the efficiency and aid of our government. But sometimes we don't have the capacity to do it. We don't have the capacity to solve all the problems. But so if we as a club can target one thing, like just food insecurity in our area, maybe it can be applied to other areas. I don't know. But there are ways I think that if you focus yourself, you can do it.
Right. I feel like we hear Band-Aid and like there's kind of like a slightly negative connotation because we as humans kind of like want it to be something to be concluded. Like there's no more blood flow there, right?
Yeah.
But like there's something to be said for like that permanent Band-Aid.
Absolutely. I mean, like the food bank is technically a Band-Aid, right? It's giving food, but it's absolutely necessary and pertinent that we're providing people food, right? That are hungry. And like but I think there has to be a mediation in between saying, why are these people, the poverty rate is still, like, it hasn't gone down over hundreds of years, even as we see our quality of life go up, even as we see all these things improve. And so we're seeing, like, how can we make it so less people are poor? How do we prevent this generational poverty?
Right.
Yeah.
And it is, like, a bit much to expect high schoolers to, like, solve food insecurity, right?
Yeah.
Like, no matter how many, like, people, like, you can muster, like, and how many man-hours, like, that represents, like, there's some things that, like, have to be dealt with like, by people with big money and like the capacity to like organize in a significant way. But like the sound of like the permanent Band-Aid that can be reapplied like year after year, like just to like do anything you can and like make the big solutions like easier in the end.
Very true, yeah.
So like you see like SWAHg like settling into that permanent Band-Aid role rather than like a permanent solution to food insecurity? I
mean, obviously, we as a high school club are not going to be the permanent solution to food insecurity. I would love to see us do both. I would love to see us continue this sort of sustainable Band-Aid and look also for these other projects like the Jaunt Shuttle service or things, or obviously doing things that would also, but obviously that depends on capacity and the abilities of high schools, which is constantly changing. What I think is good is that we're starting to see an increase in how serious people are taking students. I mean, we now have days off in the year when we can go and protest. We have like that would be an excuse app. And there are things, we're being more enabled than ever. And so I have hopefully faith in that younger student classes can continue it.
And speaking of like that younger series of classes, like you're seeing like your growth of like SWAHg in like the 3 years that like you've had this, like you've seen growth. What does that look like? Yeah,
I love that the majority of our club is not seniors. I love that we have juniors. I love that we have sophomores, freshmen, and I think that's what's important. I think it's important that obviously it's important that kids are participating in extracurriculars, and I think you have to find that you have to participate in things that you're passionate about.
Right.
And I think we just have to make sure that kids are passionate about these issues, so that way we continue to address them and hopefully solve them.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me of one of my favorite movies, Robots, from way back when. You see a need, you fill a need.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So you've seen like this need and like you filled it in like a pretty admirable way. Like, is there anything is there anything like that you would like to see like a club formed around that maybe you don't have like the time or like the remaining effort to do, but like you would just really like to see someone as dedicated as you like tackle?
Oh, that's a great question. I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't know. I think obviously there's like so many issues like plaguing our society.
Yeah.
But it has to be some things that are I think in our situation as a high school students in this club
Right.
at Albemarle High School, there's lots of, we want to look at societal issues that are hurting Charlottesville
Right.
and that we could work to interject into.
Like housing.
Housing.
Like, we both see, and on like the macro scale, like housing is getting worse pretty much everywhere, but also like specifically here in Charlottesville, like you see it there pretty badly.
And I interned with the United Way of Greater Charlottesville,
Yeah.
and they recently started this Envision campaign, which is a 5-year campaign to help lift 1,800 families, specifically Black and brown families, out of poverty.
Right.
And what you find is that the solution isn't just like giving them money temporarily. That's not
Yeah.
going to solve anything. We want to permanently lift these families out of poverty, and that comes from giving them cars, from giving them
Right.
like tax it, because like even just getting a car loan, they're being provided like 30% car loans, which is like
Yeah. Nothing.
atrocious. Like
Yeah.
and so it's enabling all these things to be easy, these temporarily be easier, so that way permanently they'll be helped.
Right.
But it's niche things. It's not just money, and that's difficult.
Right. Can you speak more to like your internship with United Way? Like what does United Way do for like those of us that aren't familiar with it?
Yeah, so they're a nonprofit that sort of works. It's throughout the country and in some international. But basically, I'm trying to think. They work as like a hub with other nonprofits
Right.
for larger goals. And so like this larger goal of lifting families out of poverty, they pair up with, for example, the car loaner. They pair up. They're working to provide early education to all students, because you see this. We know the stratification in our education. The fact the racial disparities in our education. But we can see that it starts at a young age in kindergarten. They're taking literacy tests, and those that are passing this literacy benchmark are being supported, and those who aren't are being pushed back, right? But it comes down to which kids went to pre-K beforehand,
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, then who's actually going to pre-K? And that's these parents that can afford to send their kids to pre-K,
Right.
and parents that are able to stay, or parents that are able to stay home because they don't have another job that they're doing,
Right.
And so we have to find ways that we can eliminate barriers earlier to prevent this later on stratification.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't answer your question. I went on a tangent, but
So like United Way, like kind of like a middleman / nervous system for like
yeah,
other.
I think nervous system is a great word.
So, and you've been interning with them for how long?
It started last year. I did the Bank of America student leader internship with them, and then they invited me to stay on.
Interesting. So like what kinds of things, like specific like projects have you like done for them?
Yeah, so I work with the marketing team first and foremost,
Right.
Which is a wide range of things.
Yeah.
It goes from, helping them run this larger fundraiser or helping I don't want to spoil any of our coming projects, but they made like a picture book for kids to show them what parts of Charlottesville that are sort of like. I'm gonna go on a tangent. Is that cool?
Go ahead. Go right
Okay,
ahead.
so we had the Charlottesville that we know, and then we had the Charlottesville that's struggling with poverty, and what we can also notice is that we have a part of Charlottesville, a history for Black Americans that's just hidden or not really known.
Yeah.
Like when you see Charlottesville, you think vineyards, you think UVA, you think, oh, how beautiful. But in reality, there is an ugliness that we've sort of swept under the rug. And like Vinegar Hill, the raising of Vinegar Hill, which was thriving Black businesses that were destroyed, right?
Yeah.
And so there are things that we've sort of ignored. And so part of United Way is also making sure that we remember those. And there's beauty in that, but there's also ugliness in what whiter Charlottesville has done to those areas.
Yeah.
And how they've sort of taken over and destroyed that history.
Yeah.
And so like we created a coloring book for children that really showed important places and their history, like the Paramount, that you can see the 3rd Street entrance, right? That has that is how the Black people had to enter back in the days of segregation.
Right.
Sorry, that was a tangent again, but yeah.
I get it. We appreciate the tangents. So
And then so that's marketing team, and I also like social media is like something
Right.
and then I also work with the development team, which is like the data science, and what I'm doing my senior project in Mesa for, and that's playing around with data and seeing how can we really observe the sort of disparities in Charlottesville, or like
Right.
what can we learn through analyzing data.
So I want to like go back to that bit about
Yeah.
the beauty and the ugliness and like teaching like
Yeah.
the Black history of Charlottesville. Like obviously like we would not like normally think of that as like as concrete as like solving something like food insecurity, but like in my opinion like things like historiography and like just a knowledge of like what has been done and like the historical causes for like the why things are so bad today in certain respects. Obviously like we wouldn't call it like it's not like solving like hunger or whatever, but like I think like it is equally valuable, like, and not just to like the people who are directly suffering from it, but like also to people who like would rather not think about that kind of thing, not because like necessarily they're racist, but like because like they just don't want to be pushed out of their comfort zone. Like I think
Yeah.
it's important to like get that out there and like get just like a like society-wide understanding of like the roots of racism, like even in places like that it's been erased from. So I like the sound of that. Like,
I think hunger, I think, is actually a really good analogy to that. Like, a way that we don't really realize the prevalence of it. I think that the same thing is true. Neither of us can truly speak on the subject
Yeah.
because, neither of us are Black.
Right.
But there's, like, definitely systemic racism everywhere across the country, across the world.
Yeah.
But definitely in Charlottesville. And even though, like, obviously August 2017, when the neo-Nazis came, we know that wasn't Charlottesville.
Right.
But that being said, there's a reason they came here.
Yes.
And there's a reason that we still had that statue. There's a reason that there is racism here
Yeah.
that can't be denied.
Right. And like the statues like were created by like a specific part of society to like remind another part of that same society like what their place was. Like these are the people that we honor and this is the kind of ideal that we want to hold up. So like I feel like your guys' mission there is kind of like the reverse of that, like kind of like teaching the underside of like these statues and that kind of thing. 'Cause it's like this is the end result of like honoring this kind of person, holding this kind of ideal. It's not just like idealistic in like the marketplace of ideas, but like these kinds of beliefs have real material impacts on like the material world and like the kinds of like lives that people are living.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like the statue is sort of like an obvious example.
Right.
But there's things there's like so much of our history in Charlottesville that is like, like the Ravenna Trail that we all love, right?
Yeah.
The river, like that river was used to trade slaves on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And trade enslaved people, like people were traded there. I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
that's something, I don't know. So I don't have more to say on that, I guess.
I don't know, like
yeah.
a sad fact I have is that like the creation of like Shenandoah National Park like involved like moving a bunch of like poor Native American people like off that land.
Yeah,
So, like,
exactly.
it's a bit sad, but
Yeah.
like, yeah.
The Jay Riccabona Experience right here. No.
Sorry guys if you were hoping for a fun one. So like moving on to like lighter topics, like
Yeah.
you're leaving Albemarle soon. Like, do you have any like happy memories that like that you'll carry with you for a while?
Yeah, I loved Albemarle. I can't really. I think when I came here, I didn't really know anybody. I knew a few people,
Yeah.
but I'd say I could count them on my hand on my first day.
Right.
And so I think meeting all these people has been like sort of my favorite memories. Just like there's people that I even like met this year. I became closer with this year, and it's like, wow, that's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now I like. Did I just press this button? Is that going to affect anything?
No, not at all.
All right, my bad, team. No, but like I think it's crazy that like there's some people that you've only 4 years sounds kind of minimal, or 1 year or 6 months, and yet these people are quite important to me.
That's really sweet.
Thanks. Yeah.
Really happy for you like making those connections.
Thanks. What about
So-
you, Jay? What was your favorite memory?
Ooh, I don't know. As like maybe something to do with drama, like putting on like this year's show, kind of like Bury the Dead, like kind of coming off from like a long COVID break where we've done nothing, and then like just that like the pull from like every like aspect of it, like cast members, sound guys, like directing, building the sets, costumes, like seeing everyone pull in one direction, like pull that rope, and then like it all be tied together in the end, and like the end result is something that like people really liked. We had like one of the best turnouts for like a fall show ever because like
Wow.
people were hungry for that, and like that was really heartening to like put in so much time with like so many people and like it'd be rewarded.
Yeah, I went to the show. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it very much. It was very very good. Yeah, do you think you're gonna continue with theater in Wisconsin?
Well, maybe not like as like a career thing, maybe like some community theater. I'm looking into like double majors, but like I'm not sure like if history/theater is like an acceptable double major. But we'll have to see. Like I'm fingers crossed, yes. Maybe not as like an actor, like maybe more into directing is like where I'm looking at. But like I would love it if like things turned out like that way.
Well, I believe that. I think if you follow that passion, I'm sure you'll find a place for it.
So I'm noticing things have been flipped on their head, and I'm being interviewed now. So I'm going to University of Wisconsin. Do you know where you're going to go next year?
Yeah, next fall I'll be attending Harvard University.
Incredible. Amazing. That's very impressive. Like, you excited?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think it'll be really good. I think always there's like a little bit like trepidation, fear before you attend, but after visiting, I'm like super excited, and the people are all really nice.
Yeah.
There's lots of opportunities.
So you've gone up there and visited?
Yeah, I went to. They have like Visitas or like visiting days, and so I went there, and it was really nice. And there's just so many opportunities.
Yeah.
I think there's probably gonna be FOMO, but that's something I'm fine to have when you have.
Come on. I don't want to like contradict you here, but like FOMO when like you're talking about going to Harvard versus going to anywhere else, you know?
Oh no, I meant more like once you get to this school, there's just so many things that you can do, and so it's like if everything seems interesting, it's just you really have to find what you're passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. So have you gotten like housing assignments yet, or?
No, they assign it for you. You do like a questionnaire, and then they pair you with a suite or a double or whatever.
Interesting. Do they have like different like dorm halls, or is it just one?
Yeah, they have the main like Harvard yard where all the freshmen live, and then you get assigned sort of like Harry Potter almost to like different residential colleges.
Interesting. So like the whole thing is just residential colleges and not like specific like halls? No,
it starts in a dorm freshman year, and then you find like 8 of your closest friends, or 7 and 8 total. You're on a block, and then you get put in a house.
That's really interesting. I haven't, just like another reason why Harvard's like really cool. So like I'm really happy and excited for you. I think you're definitely going to do well there. I can feel it.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so sweet.
All right. So like on that like high note, I think that's a good place as any to end it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and catch you later.
Catch you later.